talking forage and pasture management now, focusing on Bermudagrass and weeds.
Hello, my name is Brian Pugh. I'm the State Extension Forage Specialist for Oklahoma State University, and we're going to be talking about pasture recovery after some of the tough environmental conditions we've had in Oklahoma. So again, one of the most common questions that we've been getting in county extension offices for the last few years has been the fact that these poor environmental conditions have really hurt our warm season grass stands in Oklahoma. Fortunately, we've recently got some rains across the body of the state, and that recovery period is going to start. But a very common question is, should I reestablish my forage stand? Should I replant a Bermuda stand? And we're standing here in a field that was reestablished, replanted last year. And we decided that no longer did we want a World Blue stem. We wanted to migrate into managing Bermuda grass for an improved quality forage. That's why this was reestablished. But for 95% of producers in Oklahoma that I have worked with through county educators, I normally don't recommend replanting. And the reason is, for Bermuda grass stands, they are extremely prolific. If we give them what they need, they will recover open holes in those forage stands very quickly. So that brings us to the question, what do healthy Bermuda grass stands need? And it really comes down to three things. The first thing is going to be controlling competition. The second is going to be the nutrients that that plant needs to thrive. And the third is going to be controlling the grazing pressure or the harvest pressure on that stand. Very simply, controlling competition is just controlling the broadleaf, unpalatable broadleaf weeds or unpalatable grassy weeds that are in that stand competing for resources with Bermuda grass. Those key resources are sunlight, nutrients, and water. And again, if those undesirable plants take those resources up, we can't use those to grow desirable forage, and again, that is a net loss to the system. So that's where herbicides come into play to help us conserve those resources for desirable forage use. Second would be nutrients, and that is going to be based on a soil test. All of our county offices have soil probes that you can use to take a soil test. And again, that third factor that we need to think about is controlling the harvest of that forage. And that might be harvest through a grazing livestock animal, or it might be harvest like if we were baling hay off of that field. But again, the real theory behind that is each one of those leaves acts as a solar panel. It's capturing sunlight to create energy for the plant, and that energy is used to grow more yield, more biomass that we can use for livestock. If we continually remove those solar panels off the plant, what we see is that plant will be very unhealthy because it's having to use carbohydrates or energy from the root system each time it wants to regrow. We're standing here in a stand of weeds is obviously at the point we could start making decisions on herbicide applications. I want to give you some quick tips to remember when it comes to weed control. The real way to save money is to get on those annual weeds early in the season. We normally say weeds at that 2 to 6 inch stage are much more economical to control. Good rule of thumb is this first knuckle joint of your fingers is about 2 inches. Where your fingers meet your hand is about 4. And if those weeds are to the top of your hand, as you put your hand down into the stand, that's almost 8 inches tall. That's getting past the point of economical control. And you can see here, we're to that point in this stand. So this is one of those stands that I can save a lot of money if I'm on it today. If I wait another week though, these weeds could potentially be 12 inches tall. Now I've got to pick herbicides with maybe additional active ingredients, or I've got to run higher rates of herbicide, and that ends up costing me more money in the long run. So a good take-home message for weed control is scout early, spray early. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long run.